Probably take a towel.
The equation E is equal mc squared, in which energy is put equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light, showed that very small amount of mass may be converted into a very large amount of energy, and vice versa. The mass and energy were in fact equivalent, according to the formula mentioned above. This was demonstrated by Kokras and Walton in 1932 experimentally.
You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. Grays. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. RH negative blood. What are they hiding from?
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Markham. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to S4 of E Squared. We are under the umbrella of Spaced Out Radio. I must throw the disclaimer in that the views and opinions of S4 do not reflect that of Spaced Out Radio. So, on that note, how's everyone doing tonight? You with us, Markham?
I sure hope so.
All right. So tonight we are, to get some stuff out of the way, tonight we are discussing MK Ultra, mind control, and psyops, the history of it, and of course, like I always say in every show, these are based on research, people we've talked to, and being in the military with both of us, some of the stuff that we've actually seen in the military involving psyops and whatnot. But don't take our word for it. Do your own studies and talk to your own people and do your own research. We're only here to plant the thoughts in your mind. So some things I want to bring up though. Don't forget Paracon is under 2 weeks. If you're in the local area and you're listening, we are doing our next planning meeting for Paracon at the Lone Star Restaurant next Saturday at 2 p.m. And the last but not least planning meeting will be at Lake Tyee, which is where the Paracon is, on a Wednesday at probably about 10 a.m. because most of us have kids in school and we got to get our kids to school, and then we'll go up, inspect the lodge, see how many chairs, tables, that kind of thing they got, and start getting everything together. So the lineup for Paracon, we have Tyler Allen Standing Bear, he's doing Bigfoot. We have Derek Tyler doing alien abduction and my labs. I'm doing the history of UFOs and alien abduction. We got Dave Scott, your own Spaced Out Radio owner and host, doing experiencers and why they're important to the paranormal field. We have Christina George doing paranormal and how it all ties together, whether it's Bigfoot, abduction, or ghosts, and how they're all related. And we have, last but not least, SJ and Russ Wells of Fog Paranormal coming down to touch everything ghostology, the dangers of the paranormal, the tools of the trade. Uh, Everything haunting is going on them. We have the VIP roundtable at the Lone Star Restaurant on the 22nd, the same day, from 8 to 10 p.m. Get your tickets now. $25. They're going to be $30 at the door. And then from 11 to 12:30 midnight, we have Fog Paranormal again doing the spirits of the ghosts of concrete, and it's going to be a paranormal walkthrough of the town. That will cost $5 a head for that. Other than that, the Paracon is free. It's open and free to the public. We're going to have vendors, shopping all day, things like that, as well as the lectures. We also have Bill Hauser. He'll be doing spirit box sessions at lunchtime. We have a 2-hour lunch block because right now we don't have a food vendor or anything that's going to the Paracon. So you're going to have to take the time, if you don't bring a brown bag lunch, you're going to go to Concrete and have lunch down there, which is only like 10 minutes away. It's not a big deal. But that's why we did a 2-hour block. We're also going to have raffles. We're going to have giveaways, things like that. It'll be a fun day. And once it's done, we'll start planning for next year. We're going to do a change up, though, for S4 tonight. Like I said, is MK Ultra, MJ, Mind Control, and psyops. But I'm really disturbed, and maybe some of our listeners can help me with this. But so I run Forest Moon Paranormal, and I've noticed within the last 3 to 4 days, I'm getting more and more abduction people, clients that are asking more questions about abduction and experiences they've had with abduction. I'm seeing pictures of bruising. I'm hearing stories, and what disturbs me is the increase. Now, one of three things can be happening. I do Forest Moon promos on Saturdays, so maybe some of the new people that are coming into Forest Moon are, abductees from way back. Maybe in today's up tempo and attitude, people are getting more comfortable coming out and talking about it. And I really hope those are the two possibilities, because the third possibility that I don't like seeing is abductions are increasing. That's what I don't want to see. So, next week, we are going to discuss in depth alien abduction. And I'm actually getting feedback from some listeners that they want to hear more UFO and alien topics than conspiracy. And that's fine. It's in the schedule to pursue that. So, next week, instead of doing missing persons in the paranormal, we're going to discuss alien abduction. The week following, October 23rd, we'll do a Paracon wrap-up and after-action review and discuss what people want to see next year, speakers that we are planning on lining up, things like that. October 34th, October 30th, S4 Halloween. November 6th, we're going to discuss S4 and politics. Who to vote for. We're not telling you who to vote for, but we're going to bring out some of the scandalous stuff and discuss all the people that are running for office in depth. And maybe change your mind about who you plan on voting for. I don't know. I really don't care who you're voting for, because it's already set in stone. Hillary Clinton is going to win. Even if you all voted for Trump, Hillary would still win because it was decided 20 years ago. Wouldn't you agree, Markham?
I've actually heard that no matter who wins popular vote, Hillary is going to win. That it's already been bought and paid for. And I've also
Right.
heard that George Soros is at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
So,
What did I hear? I heard, Trump's latest BS of actually basically his comments were insinuating he condones rape. He condones manhandling women. And he already said months ago that he could go out and shoot somebody on Broadway and people would still vote for him. And I have no doubt about that. He's got followers that are just they're brainwashed, they're blind to anything, and Trump's just the savior. And oh God, he is far from it. He's not job. um,
Well,
but no,
keep in
actually,
mind Hitler was elected too.
right? But the thing is, Hillary was bought and paid for back when Bill was running, where when Bill was president. That's when they started grooming her for presidency because she ran the office. Bill didn't.
Yeah, he was busy.
Yeah, he was. But yeah, we're not going to tell you who to vote for. Like I said, I don't care who you vote for. This country's a mess. It's not going to get fixed anytime soon, regardless of who's running for president, regardless who makes it. But November 6th is our S4 politics show. November 8th, you vote. Good luck with that. November 13th, we're doing an S4 Veterans Day special. I'm going to probably bring in one of my buddies. Markham's going to bring in one of his buddies. And we're just going to have all four of us veterans talking about Veterans Day and things we've been through. So November 20th, we've got the Philip Schneider lectures. If you're not familiar with Philip Schneider, either go on YouTube and look for his lectures, or you can Google him directly. And yeah, Philip Schneider, very interesting situation. He was actually killed by the government. He was found. I can't remember if it was piano wire or if it was a bullet to the head, but allegedly, yeah, nothing's ever set in stone. To me, this whole world is a matrix anyway. So the Philip Schneider lectures, November 20th. November 27th are the hollow earth theories. That's another interesting one. December 4th, we got the Philadelphia experiment. December 11th and the 18th, we are discussing alien species visiting Earth. We're going to actually go over the book of 160 species that are visiting this planet and already here. We're taking the 25th off. Merry Christmas. It's Christmas time, and we're not doing a show. But January 1st is a show you don't want to miss because we're going to discuss basically the what's happened over the last year and where we're going on for 2017, both with Forest Moon Paranormal, because there's a lot of things coming up that I'm not at liberty to talk about. And as far as S4, we'll start. You tell us what you want to hear, and we'll start plugging it in. So, based on what you, the listener, tell us what you want to hear, is what you're going to hear in 2017 as well. I've already heard you. You want to hear more UFO and alien ties, and we're going to be heading that way. So, let's see. MK Ultra. Actually, there was something else I wanted to say, but it slipped my mind. Anyway, MK Ultra began in the early 50s. Is that right, Markham?
Well, actually, it began as early as late 1930s and into the 40s with Joseph Mengele, the Nazi angel of death, who was doing all the experiments on twins and children, and he was just really doing some ungodly crap. But many consider him the father of MK Ultra.
Okay. Yeah,
because he was doing the, he was doing all the mind control with trauma experiments back then. And they think Operation Paperclip, one of the sources I read, credits the guys with Operation Paperclip for having found some of his notebooks. And of course, those went to the pre-CIA. I can't remember. It's skipping my brain what the precursor to the precursor to the CIA was. It won't come to me. You probably remember. They think that they found the notebooks and said, those sadistic SOBs over at that department could use these, and, and next thing you know, we got that.
Yeah, and it's yeah, and then in 1973 they did the big when they started getting investigated, they did the big document flush, but there were 20,000 documents that were actually
Yep.
put in the wrong filing cabinet, so they found them anyway. And if you want to find actual documents, go on www.blackvault.com. Excellent source for finding. I can't remember the guy's name that runs Black Vault, but he actually does Freedom of Information Act requests all the time. And so he takes all these documents he gets from the government and puts them online, files them under blackvault.com. So you want to look for government documents. There's a search engine right there. You can find anything you want.
Well, they start charging for those damn things, didn't they? I mean, you just don't say, hey, I want a document now. Seems to me you've got to actually pay for them now.
I'm not sure. I've never
on
actually
freedom of, FOIA requests.
Right. I've never filed for one, so I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be surprised because the government wants to get their money somehow. So it wouldn't shock me any.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So MK Ultra began using LSD, and I know with prostitutes, they get prostitutes to feed LSD to their clients, and the CIA would sit there with one-sided mirrors and observe unsuspecting men. That was one way. Then, of course, being in the military, we are guinea pigs. How many shots did you have? I've had 5 anthrax shots. I've had smallpox shot. I've been fed mefloquine, primaquine for Somalia. And that doesn't even count all the experimental flu shots and crap they give us. So, did you ever get any experimental crap that was given to you?
Well, they told us we were getting plague 1, plague 2, diphtheria. Before we pulled into Italy, it was line up with both arms hanging out, and they were pretty much dosing us up. I mean, it was nothing to get 7 shots, 3 on one side, 4 on the other.
Now, were they still using the air guns? Did you ever get the air gun shot? Because in '89, when I first went into the Army, they still had the air gun shot, and then it's basically a compressed gun-looking device, and it shoots the medication, vaccine, whatever, just blasts it right through your skin. And they decided it was unsanitary because of the splashback from this device that was shooting medication through your skin, and blood and whatever would just kind of splatter back because it's compressed air pushing stuff through you. So
yeah, I remember those, and if they didn't hold your arm just right and moved a little bit, it would lay a nice little, it would slice you open a little bit.
Yeah, it'd slice right.
You would come out of there bleeding, and yeah, you'd come out of there bleeding on both arms. Yeah.
So, a 1955 MK Ultra document gives you some of the range of the efforts of what they were doing. 1, substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient will be discredited to the public. I could see that being happening today. I mean, they can feed it in your water. They can feed it in the air. Chemtrails. Who's to say a chemtrail isn't actually dropping an MK Ultra chemical?
I don't know. It seems like there's been a lot more respiratory infections lately since all that crap came out. I know. Right. I get chest. I get course, I work in healthcare, so am I getting it from my patients or am I getting it from the environment? But I've had a lot more. I cough and hack and have more trouble now than when I smoked. I'd go back to smoking and probably improve my health. It probably block out some of the crap.
Well, probably. I mean, as much crap as they say about smoking, I really don't know why, because the government's not about your health. They never have been. They never will be. But doing PT in the Army, I could run faster than a lot of non-smokers. I would get done with a 2 mile PT test, come back and smoke a cigarette, and be just fine. So yeah, I have no doubt. In fact, I tried growing tobacco here in my greenhouse at here in Washington State, and it grows. I just don't know what to do with it once the plant grows. Where you know how long you take to trim it and all that stuff.
Oh, you do? Yeah, I used to work. I used to work tobacco out in the mountains or out in Kentucky, and basically once it gets bloomed out, you strip the leaves off and then you hang them till they turn brown. And if you want to get real fancy, you get what they call dark fired burley. Now that's where you hang it upside down in the barn and smoke it over oak. You get that real. That's one of the most pleasant times of the year in Kentucky is when all the tobacco barns are smoking it. The smell is just fantastic.
Okay, so what we're going to do, I'm going to go over these 17 different chemicals that the CIA was using for MK Ultra, and we're going to discuss each one of them, because the first one promotes illogical thinking and impulsiveness. So yeah, what caught my eye the most was the discredit in public. That's what they do today. You don't find so many to shut people up. You don't find them killing as much as they used to. Now they just discredit you. Having PTSD, yeah, okay, he's got PTSD, so he's just, he's not thinking straight. So don't listen to him. Or, he's got bad credit, so he's just broke. He's trying to make a buck. So yeah, don't believe him. There's all kinds of things they can do to discredit you versus killing you, which is going to bring more eyes out of the public. So number 2.
Oh yeah, and if you're really piss them off, they find child porn on your computer.
Yeah.
Just ask Stan Romanak.
Right. They've got their ways to discredit you. Now, substances which increase the efficiency of mentation and perception. Do you have any idea what that would be?
Well, like making your brain go into freewheel where you're where it just makes you ideate probably just a constant stream of stuff.
That would
people
probably
like me with ADD. We do that naturally. I don't need a drug for that. I need a drug to stop that from happening.
Right.
Whether I already got the stuff when I was in the Navy and that's why, or but
I can see
when it's
that
bedtime.
I can see that being an LSD derivative, maybe.
Possibly, or a what's that one they call the God molecule, DMT.
Okay. And you got materials which will cause the victim to age faster, slower in maturity. Never heard of that one.
I'll take some of that stuff to age slower now.
Yeah. And then they got to promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Now, actually, the MK Ultra project used alcohol in some cases too.
Yeah, lots of LSD and lots of alcohol and sex. I mean,
Trippin says, DMT, you rang?
Trip.
Now, there was a Dr. Cameron I'm sure you're familiar with Cameron through the research you did as well. He was one of
Right.
the first after, because bear in mind the MK Ultra project, for those of you who haven't done a whole lot of research onto it, actually wasn't just the United States; it was into Canada as well. And one of the biggest doctors or psychiatrists actually that was into this and doing MK Ultra experiments, because it wasn't just the CIA. The CIA also had hedge funds and had outside contractors, universities, psychiatrists on their payroll, and they were using students in big name universities uh, to push their project and do drug experimentation and mind control experimentation. And if you look at today, it's been brought up before, but allegedly you would have to look at these school shootings. Were they controlled by MK Ultra? Now, supposedly the MK Ultra project ended in the 70s. I don't think so. I think they still do it today. I think it's shifted
No.
names. I think a lot of our psyops that we use,
Yeah, I think they changed the commission.
right? I think the government, maybe not just the
Around.
CIA, but the government itself uses MK Ultra research, and even on our own soldiers. Now we're going to talk about psyops. Psyops is actually predates MK Ultra from way back. Because all psyops is conditioning your enemy. You have to know your enemy, know what your enemy's weaknesses and strengths are. That's all. That's all psychological operations is. Now, where you get into the weirdness is where they use like ELF, which is frequency ranges, and they use vibration and noise and things like that. That's where the stuff kind of gets weird with psyops, and we'll get into that. But Cameron, which was one of the original psychiatrists in the MK Ultra project, actually became the chairman of the World Psychiatric Association and the president of the American and Canadian Psychiatric Associations. He was also a member of the Nuremberg Medical Tribunal in 1946 and 47. So you're talking a lot of black project funding. You're talking a lot of government manipulation and control. And if you work for them, apparently, going by this particular psychiatrist, you get put in a lot of places of power. Now, with the CIA, the Department of Defense also gave hallucinogenic drugs to thousands of quote unquote volunteer soldiers in the 50s and 60s. Um, uh, now, did you ever hear about the hallucinogen that was codenamed BZ, which is Bravo Zulu? You still there,
Run
Michael?
that by me again, please.
Yeah, it's called Bravo Zulu.
Yeah.
It's quinacridonyl benzylate, and it's like an LSD that it's hallucinogenic that the DoD gave volunteer quote unquote soldiers in the 50s and 60s.
Sounds like that movie Jacob's Ladder,
Hey, yeah, it
where the
does.
guy thought he had a whole life and he was really dying on an operating table in Vietnam.
The ultimate,
That was a tripped out movie.
yeah, it was the ultimate goal of MK Ultra was basically to manipulate and control people. It was also to create torture tactics to use on the enemy. Um, and what we have today, I firmly believe, is, and this is just opinion and conjecture, but some of these shootings you hear about that don't make sense, like the police shooter in Texas, and even the shooter in Florida. They don't make sense. Where these people came from, why they did it, and even they, in some cases, didn't know why they did it, which to me shows mind control. Now they
Well,
MK,
there's been some, yeah, there's actually been some supposition that the guy that killed Robert Kennedy was a mind control. There's something, and I meant to track it down and didn't get a chance because I'm working. I'm on my week on work this week, but seems like there's been several assassins that have had the book in the Rye on their persons when they committed the crime. I'm thinking, I was thinking that like Mark David Chapman, there were several. Ann Sirhan had a copy of it. Like it's being used as a trigger. It's like, here, read this book, and there's a passage in there that apparently triggers them.
Yeah, like a code word that opens your mind up. I haven't read the book, but I've actually got it in my library, just because of that fact. I mean, even
I had to read.
even the movie
I had to
Conspiracy.
read college, and it was. That's one of those I got done with, and I said, Jesus, what a waste. I did not enjoy it. I just wanted to reach in the book, grab, I just wanted to grab that kid and just slap the living crap out of him.
Yeah. Even the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson brings up Catcher in the Rye. When he had to go out and buy it and he didn't know why.
You've got some high-profile people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had to go out and buy a copy.
Mark David Chapman had it. The guy shoot. Yeah, they tied that in because everybody. Oh, John Hinckley. Let's see, Mark David Chapman, Sirhan, and I'm thinking there's another one in there that high-profile attempted assassin or true assassin that actually had it on him.
Yeah, and the other thing that's being brought up is if you look at all the presidential shootings or shooters, they all have the first, middle, and last name. They have 3 names to their name. I've heard that theory before, and when it's fact, it doesn't become a theory anymore. But it's just some things you have to think about. And yeah, but you have to kind of weed through tripping, whether it was an actual shooter or was it a false flag, and then you have the crisis actors and all that crap. And the Colorado shooter. Yeah, you're talking about the one last year, I assume. There's been so many. Yeah.
The one that did the theater shooting out in where he dressed up like somebody out of the Batman movie and started blowing people away.
Mm-hmm. And then they don't know
Yeah,
why they
he
did.
was right. I think he was batshit crazy to start with.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the guys did. That was, good God. You realize that was 4 years ago already? Almost 5 years ago?
Time flies when you have fun.
That was James. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was James Holmes. And I mean, he was just, all you got to do is an image search for this guy, and like, he's crazier than shit house rat. I'm sorry. I think his defense attorney probably said, have we got a defense for you?
Okay, I just found my original notes from a couple months ago when I was doing MK Ultra research. And yeah, you're right. It actually started in 1484 with Heinrich Kramer and the Malleus Maleficarum. That's where they came up with MK Ultra.
Wow.
Was based on the torture tactics and manipulation that was in the Malleus Maleficarum or Maleficarum. There we go. And then in 1776 was Franz Mesmer with the Baquette, which was the barrel of iron filings created magnetic fields.
He's also where you get the term mesmerism. He figured out how to use mirrors and lights to put people into a hypnotic trance.
Right.
In fact, they used to call hypnotism mesmerism.
So you're talking MK Ultra was just a drop in a bucket compared to the stuff they were doing back in the 1400s. Actually, that's where they first came up with the ideas. And then you've got the Nuremberg Code, which came up with medical ethics. Now, you've got Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke, which also came out of this. And in the 1950s, our first official tests were in Japan. We got Richard Condon with the Condon reports from the Manchurian Candidate. And I've got to reiterate, our research and stuff, anyone can find. We just like to bring out the research that we've done, that we found, and plant it in your head so you can go out and beat us to it. Get more research done. And just because
Yeah,
it's on the internet, we
and
know
don't
it's
just
not.
rely on Wikipedia either.
No, hell no. But just because it's on the
There's
internet
a
does not
lot
mean
of
it's
stuff
true.
you can find.
Right. It doesn't make it true just because it's on the internet. But what we do is take the research we've done and kind of compare it to some of the facts that we've known through either one, our military experience, and what we've seen with mind control, in some cases with ELF and other
Right.
manipulations. So yeah, I just have to throw in that disclaimer, or not disclaimer, but what we say isn't always fact. We can be proven wrong. This is all based on research we've done, which some people just don't do. Now, Alan Dulles was a CIA director over Project MK Ultra under Senator Edward Kennedy. And
Good old Eddie.
yeah, it's Dr. Sidney Gottlieb and Robert Lushbrock that came up with the chemical composition for LSD and other chemicals they added to the LSD to make it, I guess, more mind manipulative.
Yeah, he was fat enough.
Right.
Oh.
All right.
Well, I guess with LSD, it's very random, and they wanted to do something. They wanted to be able to direct it a little bit better.
Exactly.
They wanted to add a little less chaos to it.
Now, there was actually, with their experimentation, there was death involved. There was a Frank Olson that committed suicide in 1955 by a CIA-induced LSD experiment. And then George White set up CIA testing centers using prostitutes. That's where that one comes from. Then you got, 1957 is where Dr. Cameron, Ewen Cameron, Ewen, was a Canadian psychiatrist.
Yeah, Donald Ewan Cameron.
Yeah. And he did 3-part brainwashing. One was LSD with shock therapy, and then was tape recorded messages. And then he ended up with barbiturates to erase the memory. And there's actually, it'd be cool to find her if we ever did another MK Ultra show. But based on the research I did, there is one woman that was actually, her mind was completely wiped. And I mean, she knows it was MK Ultra today, and she talks about it today. MK Ultra, they aren't hiding it. It's all over the place, and they don't deny it. It's all in the name of security. It needed to be done. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry, but throwing experiments on unsolicited citizens is highly illegal, and there needs to be uh, someone needs to be held accountable. That's just the bottom line.
Oh, Kathy O'Brien's the one that's got, yeah. Catherine O'Brien is the one that we need to get, who, if she's still alive, because she says she was part of the program since she was a child. I think she's got a book, Transformation of America, but it's transformation, not transformation.
Right. And so in 1972 is when they supposedly stopped MK Ultra or MK Search, because it switched from MK Ultra to MK Search at one point in time. And HistoryChannel.com actually has a whole lot of information on MK Ultra. I find that really funny, as much as they do try to hide it.
Yeah.
And the History Channel does all kinds of interesting stuff. Now, how much is true and how much of it's bullshit? That's the other way you got to look at. And that's where you take what you learn.
Yeah,
on
my
History
dad
Channel.
loves to watch History Channel and point out their errors.
Right.
That's half the fun of watching History Channel is like, that's bullcrap.
Uh-huh. Okay, Project Monarch.
Well,
gotcha.
Yeah, it said it went from being that MK Ultra was closed down, so they're not lying, but they renamed it Project Monarch.
Right, and that's common.
And
that's
it's still
common.
active.
Now look up Project Skyhook.
I've heard of that one.
That's Holloman Air Force Base. And I've switched pages, so I'm not sure if this is an MK Ultra project or not. I've got so many. I've got notebook. I got like 5 different notebooks with research that's been done on different topics and whatnot. So I get my information crossed a lot. It's all conspiracy, UFO, and alien related, but yeah. And it really
there's a common thread.
Huh?
Yeah, a common thread. I've got a flash drive full of that stuff.
Oh, that doesn't even count the flash drive.
There was
I've got an external, because I keep backups just in case somebody gets wise and decides they want to come in and wipe my laptop or whatever. It's all backed up. Everything is backed up either on disk somewhere or on an external hard drive somewhere. And you just never know. So yeah, all my stuff, and it saved my ass a few times having it backed up. Because every once in a while you do have some wise ass that comes in and hacks your system. And is it just a hacker or is it the government? There ain't no telling. A hacker's a hacker's a hacker, in my opinion.
Right.
So, mind control, MK Ultra, it's all the same thing. And like I said, anyone in the audience out there got something they want to hear about with mind control. Let's see here. Now, because we're gonna switch over, we're gonna talk about psyops. I've actually got the psyops. There's actually an Army regulation or a field manual on psychological operations. I've got it. It's in my it's in my homesteader group I run, which is very dormant because I don't do a whole lot there. I used to teach land nav and how to survive in the mountains and that kind of stuff with that group. But that was about 5. That was 2012 when everyone was scared the world was going to end, and I wasn't worried about the world ending. I was just prepared in case something. Because here's the thing: we know the world's not going to end, but there's people out there that want it to end and want to make something happen. That's the ones you have to watch out for, like Armageddon and the rapture and things like that. You got these groups of people that they're going to make the rapture happen. Okay, even in their own Bible, it says, no one knows when Christ is going to come. But they're going to make
Right.
it happen because God told them when the world's going to end. Really? I think they call that a false prophet.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about being a pagan. You don't have to worry about that bullshit.
No, actually,
you can blame that on the Christians and the Muslims.
Actually, no. We do have the Norse. Because the Norse believe in, and I can't remember what they call it, but it's the battle between the wolf.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, there you go. Ragnarok. See, you know more about pagans than I do. And I'm a pagan. Yeah, Ragnarok. That's it. You actually have some of the Norse that actually think they hear the horns of Ragnarok. And you got to worry about them too. It doesn't matter what your religion is. There are radicals in every religion, whether it's Christian, Muslim, or pagan, or anything in between. There are radicals in every single damn one of them. In the pagan side, it's the Norse with the Ragnarok. Because some of them want it to happen. And by God, they heard the horn, they're going to make it happen. I can't.
Yeah, I've heard some of those recordings of those horns. That's pretty wild.
It is.
I mean, that's wherever it's coming from. I haven't really heard a good explanation.
I
Because I've
think
been
it's
trying.
government.
I was trying to track it down for some newswire stories, and there's just no really good, adequate explanation of what they are.
Well, here's
I
what I
don't buy
look
the
at.
spacequake crap.
I would look at the location of the horns, what state, and then I look for a government facility near that state, because you know as well as I do, they've got sound systems that can create that kind of stuff. The military does.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes.
I'd be looking for patterns of where these sounds are heard, and I know they're international. They're heard across the planet, and I think that's just a scare tactic to try to get people to think it's the end of the world. I honestly do. Is there an angel with a horn?
Trying to
No.
get things ready for. Trying to get everything ready for Project Bluebeam, I believe it's
Yeah.
called. Well, how much of it could be HARP too?
Harps?
I mean, it might be set. HARP might be HARP, the
Yeah. I got
high
you.
frequency active auroral research. Yeah, because they could be setting up some kind of a sympathetic vibration or some kind of resonance
Very
to
easily.
be creating these.
And who's to say it's not CERN? We don't know what kind of damage CERN is causing outside of Switzerland and outside
True.
of New York. Because they're playing with fire. Smashing atoms together is not not advisable. And so they're playing with fire, so we don't know what kind of damage and manipulation they are doing to this planet and the system.
Well, that might be why we're seeing an uptick in UFO activity too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've gone from where there was a saucer-shaped craft seen once in a while to where people are, or just a glimpse, to where people are getting pictures of this, like plasma stream. There was just one posted not too long ago out of Miami, and it wasn't just one guy, so it wasn't one of these, one Photoshop. The guy's walking around showing this whatever this thing was had the double plasma streams behind it. And there's other people sitting there filming the thing too. So I mean, it wasn't just a YouTube
Well, where did this happen?
lark. I believe it was in Miami.
Okay. Before
Let
or
me
after?
try. It was
Before or
couple
after
days
the
ago.
hurricane?
Oh, might have been just after or just before.
Because here's my
Let
question.
me.
It makes me wonder if the government doesn't create some of these hurricanes. Not all of them, because we've had hurricanes there for, before HARP. But some of these, they come one after the other in different years, though. Some years are worse than others. What if HARP isn't creating these, and then the plasma is a reaction to it?
True. Let's see. Apparently that was in July that happened.
Okay.
But July. Yeah, I just found it's a 4-minute, 51-second film. It can be found on YouTube if somebody wants to look at it. It's UFO spotted over Miami Airport, July 2016, YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I will post the link in the chat room if anybody wants to check that out. But of course, the government's saying it's some kind of, I don't know, swamp gas, probably. There it is, folks. Check it out. I can't watch it with you because I'm at work and they block YouTube on the PC I'm chatting on. But
Now,
I've posted it in the chat room if they want to check it out.
I've got a diagram of different psycho and physiological effects of some of the weapons we've got, and it's from Richard Benak. He's in our astral team, and he actually did a paper on astral warfare. Because one of the missions we do with Forest Moon Paranormal, we have an astral team, and they go astrally on paranormal cases. And by doing that, one, it takes the distance away, and two, it takes away. You can see what you're dealing with a lot easier. So I mean, we've done cases in London. We've done cases where we're scattered everywhere. Three of my team are here in Washington with me. Then we've got Tony in Indiana, and we're scattered everywhere. But what they deal with is astral warfare. We've actually had cases where we didn't have to. We did astral protection. Basically, we had a protective detail over an author while he was writing a book because he was getting attacked by both the government and aliens that didn't want his book released. So we were actually on astral protective detail, fighting things that were trying to stop him from writing. The book is released and it will be at Paracon, and he is also a speaker at Paracon on my labs and abduction. But so what I have here is basically a diagram showing some of the different psycho and physiological effects for psyops. And one of them is acoustic generators. And you got ultra high frequency generators with intelligent signal. You've got optical systems, which I take that, an optical system, more as a hologram. Who's to say some of these UFO sightings we are getting, some of the more phenomenal ones might be a hologram. Now,
What are they after, though? I mean, as far as, are they trying to? Okay, I know we've got a divided camp. I mean, half our listeners probably think that the UFOs are space brothers here to save the day, and the other half think they're conniving, rotten bastards that are trying to destroy the earth. But do you think if the government is doing false flag, holographic projections, which side are they trying to feed it? Who are they playing to?
I walk the fence on that because I really don't know. I don't know what they benefit, and I don't know what they lose. If anything, I guess the biggest thing is to make. If they did a hologram, it'd be easy enough for them to say, "Oh, look, it was just this." Those people are just nut jobs. Now, why would they? I don't know. They don't have to hide nothing because they just sweep it under the rug and make
plausible deniability.
Exactly. Now, why? That's a good damn question. Why not just leave it alone? Because we have enough in the paranormal field that make the paranormal field look like fools anyway. Look at I kind of walked the fence on him too. What about the ghost hunter that got put in jail?
Oh, the one just now?
Yeah.
God, Dave was just talking about him.
Right.
Was it Paranormal University was his? Let me Google that real quick, and I'll find an answer for you.
Yeah. I mean, we've got enough crooked people in the paranormal field that we get looked bad. We look down on and get made to look bad by ourselves, let alone for the government to even try anything. So it just, I mean, and it kills me. And I even asked one of our Forest Moon paranormal people today, because I get all these groups and individuals, that's fine. They put their pictures of apparitions and whatnot on the group, and that's encouraged.
Ryan Buell.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, actually, Trip, in the military, we do have blimps, and I've talked about this on the show before. In Iraq, we had a blimp, a very large, about the size of a football field blimp, and every time a sandstorm came down, they would pull it down and tie it down. Now, they claimed it was a weather station. Okay, I can see that, but I can also see the size of the weather stations you see here aren't near that big. And then they say it's got cameras in it, so it can be seen. Well, if we're using a blimp, what are we doing with drones? It didn't make sense to me. We had them in Telefar. Now, Telefar is right on the border of Syria, Turkey, and Iraq. We're right on the corner. In fact, last year, I believe it was, when Turkey shot down the Russian plane, had I still been in Telefar, I would have seen that plane get shot down from where I was. That's also where I saw the UFO. Was the same place. So you've got, yeah. Now let's talk about ELF. And I don't remember what ELF stands for. Do you? I know it's frequency generator.
Extremely low frequency, like infrasound.
Yeah, and doesn't it paralyzes you, or makes you disoriented?
Well, it has a lot of different effects because it can. There's actually some thought that it's used as a crowd control because it causes fear. It's infrasound, extremely low frequency. Okay, we're talking from 3 to 30 hertz. And yeah, I'm pulling this out of my butt on Google, folks. So I'll tell you right now. I knew it was extremely low frequency. I just couldn't remember I knew I had looked it up because I was doing my blog about how to capture spirit sounds, and I had to look up some of this stuff. But the 3 to 30 hertz, and it's very low frequency, but there's some of the effects it has. Well, there for a while, it was the whole thing about high tension power lines around homes had ELF magnetic fields around them, 50 to 80 hertz, which is common household current is at 60 hertz. So there's a lot of there's been a lot. The Navy likes to use it for submarines. The
Right.
well, what's that thing called?
And
Submarine integrated antenna system.
And didn't they get in
I'm
trouble
looking
by some
through
of
it
the
all.
environmental groups because it was damaging the dolphins and the whales and stuff?
Well, it's thought that let's see, that was in '84. A judge told them to stop messing with it because it was supposedly causing beachings. I think that those mass beachings where a bunch of whales just run up on the beach and there's no real reason is due to the ELF interfering with their natural piloting skills. That's not the right word for it, but multitasking does that to my brain.
Right.
But you know, there's the ecological impact was supposed to have been, you know, on one hand, the Navy spent about $25 million studying the effect and basically said, nah, it doesn't hurt anything. And then other people came out and said, no, it does. I think what the Navy did and what the government did is they said, okay, we'll behave. And basically they're doing it anyway, but they're just doing it anyway, but they're just making sure that it's a lot less open about it. But they've done studies on humans, and it's not annoying. It makes people just they don't like to feel their clothes. Makes them fidgety.
Oh, probably
and just painful.
That's probably the ones that think they have bugs on them and go scratching themselves.
Well, that very, you know, if you my mute button keeps automatically turning on for some reason on my earpiece. But if you like the 2 to 5 kilovolt, yeah, my beard is a suppressing field. But the 60 cycle, you know, they honed in. You know, I think what happens is they do these open experiments, and they take the results down. This is how research works in other non-clandestine things. You throw a broad spectrum idea out there, and then you take notes, and it's like, these people felt like they had bugs crawling on them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what wavelength was this? And then you see, okay, if it's somewhere between 7 to 20 kilovolts per meter is the range that causes, let's see exactly what one makes somebody feel like they've got bugs crawling on them. We'll enhance, figure out the frequency, figure out the power you got to broadcast it at, and then you got some poor fool tearing his skin off because he thinks he's got bugs crawling all over him.
Mm-hmm. Now, Desert Storm. What were we using in Desert Storm? Yeah, because it makes you wonder. With some of the what do they call that? Desert Storm syndrome.
Oh, with the
yeah, I had to go get.
the guys that came back with all the different issues.
Yeah, and there was no set pattern with it. Now, when I was in Kuwait in '91, because basically I wasn't Desert Storm or Desert Shield, I was Operation Positive Force with the 11th Armored Cavalry. Basically, they sent everybody home and they pulled our regiment in to keep Saddam out. Go for it, Saddam. Thank you, John. Yeah. Now there is no set pattern with that. Now on that note though, the uh, we have fog here in Washington. In the fall, the fog is thick as hell, and the fog, it wasn't fog, it was actually smoke from the oil wells, and it was so thick they actually pulled all of us in for they wanted to see how much oxygen was in our blood, and I think we were down to like 13%. I know I was like 13%
Damn.
oxygen in my blood. So they had us doing PT. And for those that don't know what PT is, physical training, it's when you go out and you do your running and push ups and whatnot every morning. And they had us doing PT as a battalion. And that when you're running through smoke that thick, that's really not advisable. Now, once they realized that our oxygen levels were down to 13%, and in some cases worse, we stopped doing PT in the mornings. But
Eric, was it that your oxygen was low? I'm thinking 13%. Well, was it that your oxygen was low, or was it your carbon monoxide level was at 13%?
they said oxygen level, which I know that's close
Oh,
to. I know that's supposed to be. They stopped operations during the high smoke areas. Now what we were doing behind the scenes, I have no idea. I've got buddies that were, because I was a combat medic back then, but I was in the battalion clinic doing routine stuff, and I had buddies that were medics with some of the tankers, and they had to roll out, and they went into Iraq. I know that much. The other stuff they did, they won't talk about. They are bound by oath. They are signed under contract. They can't talk about what they did in Iraq. And I also know that when they came back, they had washed the tanks at the wash rack, and they'd find unexploded ordnance that was magnetic. That because they have I'm sure you're familiar with them. They have landmines that are magnetic that will attach to tanks and whatnot, and they're supposed to detonate once they attach. And they would have to stop washing the tanks because, well, there's a landmine at the bottom that it didn't blow up, thankfully. And now I'm going to tell you this: this isn't so much paranormal at all or conspiracy. It happened. There's what we call the Doha blast, and basically in Doha, uh, my troop was in the middle of the desert doing exercises when this happened, but we were actually called and told not to come back to the base because basically in a nutshell, and for some of the veterans in here, you might remember this, but we destroyed more equipment in one day by blowing up our motor pool than I think was destroyed in the whole war. And what happened was there was a wiring fire. Now, howitzers have what's called a fast back, or a fast back or a fast V. Both of them come into play, but it's basically a howitzer without the barrel, and it follows the howitzer, each howitzer around, and it carries the ammunition. Now these are all uploaded with live ammo, obviously. Now this fastback had a wiring fire in the heating system, All right, and it ignited, and it basically ignited it, and it blew up all the ammo that was inside that fastback. Now there's 7 fuel helmets that got hit. They basically blew up the entire motor pool. We're talking M1 tanks. We're talking 5 tons trucks, howitzers. Everything was blown up. Now in those fastbacks is a round called the Fast V, and it basically goes up and it contains, I don't know, 10, 20 landmines in each Fast V. And so when they blew up, they basically re-landmined the whole base. And General Schwarzkopf actually came and visited us and was basically happy that we were all alive. They said that nobody died, but I know for a fact that there were at least 7 that did die. Um, a couple from EOD that were trying to clear out the area. Some in the dining facility that basically from the shaking of the explosions, the main beams fell on them. So yeah, was there a cover up? No. They just didn't count the ones that died. But so anyway, Gulf War syndrome. They never did come up with a definitive answer on what caused it. Was it the oil well fires, the smoke from them? Was it the depleted uranium rounds that we have in our tanks? Could have been anything. I had to go to the VA after it was '94 when I got out after Somalia, and I had to be in do a they had to go through a physical for the Gulf War syndrome, which they said I was fine, and that was fine. I didn't have any major issues back then anyway. I didn't have issues until after Somalia. But so Gulf War syndrome. But now my question, what I bring up here, Markham, and when you get back, because I know you're working right now. What kind of psyops did we use in Desert Storm? Um, and yeah, I'd like to find someone that was ex-CIA that could come on the show and discuss some of this stuff sometime. Once Markham gets back, he might have some more insight on some of the psyops we used in the more recent wars. I know we used psyops a lot in Vietnam through propaganda. Propaganda is a form of psyops. In Somalia, we dropped leaflets, which is a form of psyop. Basically telling the Somalis what we're here for and that kind of stuff. All right, I can always turn my mic up actually. So now what General Adid was doing with his people was dropping propaganda flyers to his people saying that the U.S. Army was there to steal the fish out of the ocean, and we were there to take over the country and things like that. That's psyops. Not even counting ELF, not even counting. You have more control over your people through manipulation than you do any kind of technology, honestly. So, Markham, what to your knowledge,
Yes.
what were we using electronically and equipment-wise for psyops and Desert Storm that you're aware of?
Well, let's see. There was the microwave weapon that created. Now, I've heard both on this. Okay, I've heard that we didn't have that, but there seems to be a lot of photographic documentation that we did have something that burned flesh, but not the uniforms, and that it made the weapons too hot to handle, and they would throw them. The soldiers would throw them away.
But you see, that's the thing.
And I've seen enough pictures of that, wondering.
We didn't need to do that in Desert Storm because they were actually surrendering on their own. I remember.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
And you know, I remember hearing stories that there was a news crew and like a whole army, Iraqi army unit, raised their white flags and surrendered to a CNN reporter. Um, I remember hearing another story
If
about,
they didn't have the Republican Guard standing right behind them, yeah,
well, no, because
the
Saddam,
average Iraqi soldier just like wanted to. But if they had a Republican Guard group behind them, supposedly they were more afraid of the Republican Guard than they were of us.
well, yeah, because the Republican Guard was like the equivalent of our special forces. They were like the elite of the elite for Saddam.
Right.
And I mean, Saddam was putting, he was taking his regular army and implanting their tanks on mounds and taking the tracks off so they couldn't move. And then he was putting landmines around
Right.
them so they couldn't move.
Yeah.
He was taking his farmers and he was putting his farmers in trenches. I remember one of our units rolled in and there was a kid with a Harvard sweatshirt on and was saying, "Thank God you're here." He's like, "I just came to visit my family for spring break, and I've just been sitting here waiting because I was put into the trenches and I'm ready to go home." You know, and so yeah, and I don't agree with Bush and his little propaganda BS of sending us into Iraq. I don't. I believe we created ISIS because we took over their country. And if that happened here in America, Americans would be the same damn way. So
Oh,
on
hell
that
yeah.
note, on that note, putting myself in the mindset, when I was in Iraq, sure, I hated them all because they were trying to cut our heads off. They were attacking us. They were dropping, mortars on us. And thinking about it over the years now, you can't blame them. Most of the mortars that were being dropped on us in blood were the farmers that were pissed off at us because we were occupying their country. And sure, there were insurgents. There were terrorists there. By all means, hands down, there was corruption and terrorism and people that needed to be taken out. Now, I think Saddam himself could have taken them out no problem if he would have been given that chance, because Saddam wasn't the issue. He was a dictator, sure, but
He
who are we?
he had to wonder what the hell happened. I mean, he went from being our fair-haired boy. I mean, we propped his ass up because he was an enemy of Iran.
Right.
And
then all of a sudden we're attacking him.
damn. Yeah, he's like, what did I do wrong? I was doing everything you people told me to. I don't know. It just, right up to the time they hung his ass, he had to be thinking it was all a nightmare.
Yeah. Now, where I don't agree with him is he was experimenting on his own people with mustard gas. He was doing that, and that's where you cross the line. Now, just being a dictator,
Right.
sure. Who am I to tell you how to run your country? But you start dropping mustard gas on the Kurds because you don't like their belief system. Because honestly, the Kurds weren't Shiite, they weren't Sunni, so they're the enemy.
Right.
So, not, yeah, and I completely tripping. It wasn't over.
Nobody likes the Kurds over there.
Huh?
Yeah, nobody likes the Kurds over there, and I don't understand that because they have been some of our staunchest loyal ally. As badly as we have screwed the Kurds over, they tend to be the more loyal and steadfast of our Middle Eastern, so-called Middle Eastern allies. But because Turkey's in NATO and you've got all these artificial borders in the Middle East, there ought to be a Kurdistan. I think if they would create a Kurdistan, That would stabilize a lot of crap in the Middle East because they don't take any crap.
You know,
I
last
mean, it
month,
was northern Iraq where the Kurds were. ISIS isn't messing around up there. Last I knew.
no. In fact, I just heard last weekend that we are sending potentially more troops to Iraq to take back over Mosul. And I was at Pagan Pride last weekend, as you all know, and we have become a resource for the pagan group in Fort Lewis now. My headquarters site has. So we got into a big discussion because he's about to make the E7 list. He's not going to be deployed because he's the pagan chaplain's assistant now. But we already have troops in Iraq, and they're talking about sending more because we're taking back over Mosul. Mosul is in the hands of ISIL. I don't like using the word ISIS. I prefer ISIL. Um, but
Obviously, yeah, giving a goddess a bad name.
exactly. Now, what pisses me off more than anything is we left too soon. I mean, okay, we were occupying the country, but we should never have left our occupation until we have that country stabilized, so it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. That you know,
We broke the first rule. We broke one of the first rules of engaging another culture. MacArthur said, "Don't screw with people you don't understand," and he was a very wise man. We've got into this mess over there. We don't understand these people. We don't understand their culture by and large. But a lot of, maybe you and I and the people that are boots on the ground get an understanding of the people. But a lot of the guys at the Pentagon and in Congress making decisions are clueless.
the ones
They
that have
don't know
never
what the
been there.
culture is other than the Cliff Notes. Yeah, the ones that have never been there, never had to deal with these people. And we're screwing with people and creating power. We created a power vacuum thinking that if we just got the horrible dictator out of the way, everybody was going to line up to, wave a flag, eat apple pie, and hug their moms. Very naive. I just really can't believe that there are people. Almost feel like it was done on purpose to create a vacuum, destabilize the Middle East, and give the military-industrial complex something to feed weapons into. Because that's all it's been, is a waste of money, a waste of time, and a waste of American blood, because there's not a damn thing we're going to accomplish there other than pissing all of them off and making them all hate us, which we've done a pretty good job of.
And sending more of our own kids back into a war zone they shouldn't be in to begin with. That's what irritates me.
Exactly.
Being an NCO,
I have one that's been there 3 or 4 times now.
I might be a disabled vet, but I'm still an NCO, and I will be until I die. Now, Tripp, in answer to your question, I think all the Saddam lookalikes, because there were 16 of them, probably got killed in targeted explosions, to be honest with you, because no, we haven't found any, and I doubt we will. I think they've all been taken out. Either by our attempts at killing Saddam, because it took long enough to find him. But I'm no, there's no proof of it. But I would have to say, in my honest opinion, that he was probably targeted. They were all targeted and taken out, and then Saddam was the last one left, and they found him buried in a hole. So.
Yeah, and it was a local that turned him in, if I remember right.
Yeah,
for the reward.
Right. Now, I'm still curious about the theory. It's a conspiracy theory about there being a Stargate in Iraq, and that's why we went to begin with. If you want to look into that,
I've heard that.
Huh?
I have heard that. And there's also supposedly they found some stuff in Afghanistan, a cave full of a cave full of alien technology.
That one I looked into and I've done research on, and that was false.
Okay.
The false part, maybe they did find technology, but the false part is based on the pictures that I saw, because I talked to some of my military buddies, and the unit patch that those soldiers were wearing was 10th Mountain, and that's out of New York, Fort Drum. 10th Mountain was not in
Okay.
Afghanistan at that point in time. The point in time that they're saying the artifacts were found. I also looked into the fact that was there a missing squad around that point in time, because a whole squad of soldiers missing at one point in time altogether would have popped up. So that one I've kind of put to rest. Not on the show, but in various groups that I'm in, that they all come up and say, "Wow, look at this! This really happened." And no, it didn't. And I put that story to rest every time I see it. Every once in a rare while, I'll still see it. That also popped up in Before It's News. Before It's News is a malicious site that
Yep.
puts out garbage anyway. So I never go by any news source coming from Before It's News. So that one, but I would like to hear more about the Stargate that's supposed to be in Iraq. That's got me kind of interested. If you want to look into that for Spaced Out Radio.
Yeah, man, there's a bunch. That's a rabbit hole you need to have rappelling gear on when you dive in it. There's that guy that, I just emailed him, tried to get him on for a interview. He does the exopolitics. He might have something to do over that.
Sounds good.
But
Yeah,
it would not
John.
surprise me if they did find something like that, because all the there's a lot of the Zechariah Sitchin and Mesopotamia. This stuff that was Iraq. The Sumerian stuff, the Sumerian Stargate,
It was
all
exactly
that
in that
was
region.
Iraq.
Yeah, it was all in that region. So I would have no doubt. And yeah,
I think
John.
CNN did a leak once that said something about that.
Right. No, Eric von Daniken
That
would be
the
another
green
one.
zone was around it.
Right. Eric von Daniken and Sitchin,
Yep.
both pretty much correlate each other. And you've got so many that jump up and down and say Sitchin's BS. I don't think so. I've got the whole Earth. For those that aren't familiar with Sitchin, look up the Earth Chronicles series. There are 7 books in that series, I believe. I've got all of them, and they're fairly inexpensive, and you can find them all on Amazon. Excellent series though, very eye opening. I'm friends with him on Facebook, but he's impossible to get a hold of. He'd be awesome to have at Paracon, either one of them.
Yeah.
But the cost you would have to pay to get them over here to speak, yeah, on the budget we've got, no, we have to raise money for 5 years at least to afford to fly them over here.
That's one of those you put on your Christmas wish list
Right?
or your lottery to-do list.
Yeah, Ferguson, Missouri. I have no doubts about that either, Trippin. Trippin saying, for those that aren't in the chat room, that psyops was used in Ferguson, Missouri by the National Guard. It's a CBS News affiliate source. Reports police were using sound blasting technology to disperse crowds. I believe I saw that on the news actually when it was happening as well. So to wrap it all up, yeah, MK Ultra actually goes back before it was called MK Ultra. That kind of torture techniques and tactics was used back in the 17. Oh, where did my notes go?
It's undergone a lot of refinement since.
Oh God, yeah. Back when the Malleus Maleficarum was written, and that had to do with witch burnings and whatnot, and they were using torture tactics that the MK Ultra kind of got their ideas from, allegedly.
Yeah, there's no limit as to how depraved you can get if there's nobody watching. Make
No,
sure what you're doing is on the level.
and that's what kills me about Trump. If you remember a few months ago when Trump came out and said he condones the killing and torture of terrorist family members, and he would let the military have full reign, and then of course he recanted it a day or two later. It came up on Roundtable on Spaced Out Radio, as a matter of fact. I was one of the questions about that. But he recanted it like a day or two later, saying he'd leave it into the hands of the military to make that call. Um, yeah, Trump seems to not understand the fact that the president does not have all power. He is a puppet. He is a tool. Congress is the ones that make up all those. And he, Trump seems to think he can make all these changes. He can't. And thank God he
Nope.
can't, because, yeah, he would be building walls. And anyway, enough about Trump. My blood just boils just thinking about the guy. um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the doctor I'm working with tonight. I see there's two doctors I work with, and when I see their names on the roster, it's just instant. Ah.
right.
So I understand.
Yeah. Now, again, for those that are just catching the show, just to recant, we are going to make some changes in the programming because next weekend we are going to go into deep alien abduction discussion because of the fact that we've seen an increase in abductees coming out. And I would like to hit that. And I have had some requests from listeners that would like to hear more UFO alien talk. And that is actually on the schedule. Let's go over the schedule real quick. We're wrapping up the show. We got 30 minutes. Next weekend, like I just said, we're doing alien abduction. We're going to go over the signs and symptoms, some of the history of it. And let's talk about implants for a second, because I was told by one abductee that I was actually a guest on his show here a month or two ago. He took a very, very large. Now think electronics. You put a magnet on your laptop. You wipe your laptop. Your laptop's destroyed if you put a magnet around it. So an implant has been shown to be a frequency, an electronic device. So it makes sense if you took a very, very high velocity magnet and put it over the implant, that would wipe it. Now, what exactly is an implant? Some think it's nothing more than a tracking device. And we do the same thing with wildlife and animals here. We catch them, we tag them, we let them go. We don't torture them, we don't probe them, we don't do experiments on them per se. We just track them. However, abductees are getting tracked. They're getting tortured, essentially. You hear some of the stories from abductees. I've got an abductee now, as a matter of fact, it's waking up with bruises every day. And that irritates me to no end. What do you do? So and this goes out to our listeners as well. If you are in the abduction field, because I know we have a lot of people that are going through experiences, but if we have anyone that's listening that is in the abduction field, I'd like to compose a list of abduction support groups um, to maintain, to refer abductees to based on where they're at, whether they're here in America, whether they're in Canada, Mexico, UK, Australia. Doesn't matter where they're at. If I have a list I can refer them to, then it helped me out a whole lot with some of the abductees I'm dealing with. So we're going to be hitting hard on abduction next weekend. And then it's Paracon. So we're going to do October 23rd, a Paracon wrap up, kind of do an overview of what happened at Paracon, things people would like to see different next year, and just do a Paracon end of show, or end of Paracon show. And then we got Halloween. I think Markham and I are going to sit and talk about Halloween and tell some horror stories. October 30th. Sound good, Markham?
Yeah, it does.
And maybe we'll even find a guest. November 6th, we're going to talk S4 politics. We're going to talk about, we're not going to tell you who to vote for. We're going to show you the pros and cons of all the, well, people, if you want to call them people in some cases, that are running for office, and make you aware of who's good, who's bad, and let you decide who to vote for on the 8th. Then on the 13th, Mark and I are going to grab some of our veteran buddies, and we're going to have a good old Veterans Day special, paranormal style and conspiracy style. The 20th of November is Philip Schneider lectures. The 27th, we're going into Hollow Earth theory, so we are getting into alien discussion, more on that one. And then we have December 4th is the Philadelphia experiment. We're going to do Philadelphia experiment research and bring the facts to you of what we find. But there's a theory out there I'm going to bring up about the Philadelphia experiment, because there's a theory I've heard that I have to find out where I heard it from again, about rather than transporting into time, the battleship that got transported actually went into another dimension. And the dimension it went into was reptilian. So when this battleship came back, it brought reptilians back with it, which is why one of the reasons, if you go by that theory, you've got so many of the sailors that were on the ship that were completely mutilated and destroyed. And reptilians.
Oh, the Eldridge?
Huh? Say again?
The Eldridge.
Yeah.
The USS
ship.
Eldridge, the Philadelphia. Yeah. Yeah, that was a destroyer escort. Yeah, I remember. DE-173.
Okay, yeah.
Disappeared in one Navy yard, woke up in another. And
yeah, now, according to the theory I heard, that was years ago when I was researching that one, is that it went into another dimension and brought back with it the reptilians. One of the reptilian species, anyway. There's multiple species of them. And so we're gonna go into Philadelphia experiment. We're gonna go a little bit off into left field and talk about some of the bizarre theories about that as well. Now, December 11th and the 18th, we're gonna hit alien species. We're taking both shows because it's gonna take 4 hours easily to cover 160 species of alien that are visiting or abducting on this planet. December 25th, we are taking the day off. It's going to be a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you on the 1st of January. And that's going to be an interesting show because we're going to talk about what's happened in 2016 and what's going to happen in 2017. And we'll talk about some of the shows coming up in 2017 based on what you, the listener, wants to hear about. What's that, John? You talking about the Philadelphia experiment, wild speculation? That's all it is right now. There's no real way to verify it. And so it's pure speculation. I need to find the sources that I heard these things from, and that way I can bring you up sources as well so you can do your own research. And as I say every time we do a show, these are all opinion and research we've done, and in some cases, they are fact based on what we've seen in the military. Bottom line, whatever you hear on S4, we're just planting the thoughts in your head and allowing you to get some new information to go out and do your own research. Oh, the reptilian thing. Yeah, that's Philadelphia experiment. That's pure speculation. Pure speculation. Now, I can't remember what source I heard that from. I'd have to do a lot of digging to find out again. Not to mention, what really irritates me is years ago when I was in the Army, I had 2 bags, very large bags, full of handwritten and printed out and all kinds of documentation of alien and UFO research I'd done over the last 10 years at that time that disappeared. It was on a military base, and I set them down for 2 seconds. I checked dumpsters, I checked everything. I had 2 bags of research gone. And yeah, there's no way getting that back. And I mean, that was hand drawn stuff. That was, yeah. So there's a lot of research that I have to find again. No, John, and that's why I always put out the disclaimer that what we say is not fact. It could be fact, but we encourage people to go out and do their own research. And not just on the internet. Look for books, look for people that have experienced things, and that's where you get the truth. You get the truth more so from the experiencer, which is why we have shows like S4, Spaced Out Radio. I'm trying to remember Darkness Radio, The Quickening. There's all kinds of shows out there that do the same thing we do. Any last words, Markham?
Oh, I was looking into that reptilian Philadelphia experiment. Boy, that opened up a can of worms. Getting into Montauk. Yeah, you put that in, and it's like the Montauk Project, and I haven't found anything that really says that they brought. Of course, how are you going to, it's all kind of supposition. How do you find any real documents that said, yes, we brought aliens home with us? But, if the Philadelphia experiment happened, well, we know that something happened. They did some kind of electromagnetic experiment, and it was supposed to make it radar invisible.
Right.
And it apparently altered the vibrational. They didn't quite know what they were doing, and they altered the vibrational frequency of the metal and the men that came back that were melted into the deck. There's a lot of crazy stuff with that one.
And that's what happens.
But it tends to go back to the Montauk.
Right, and that's what happens when you play with things you're not supposed to play with. Going back to CERN, you don't smash atoms and not expect something bad to happen. You don't drop chemtrails on human populations and not expect something bad to happen. When they start playing with nature, nature's going to fight back.
Well, it's getting into a pissing contest, and I'm sorry, but nature's got a bigger wizard than we do. It's just not going
to. Here's my thing. This planet has been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. Mankind is not going to destroy this planet. This planet's going to destroy mankind and rebuild itself. That's what's going to happen.
Well, yeah. It's always save the planet. Well, the planet's not in danger. The planet will keep going whether we're here or not.
Exactly. And people need to understand that. And again, messing with CERN, you're going to get burned. And I mean, they have CERN in in Switzerland, and they have CERN under New York, from what I understand, allegedly. I'd have to do a lot more research to find out about that. Maybe that'll be another show. So again, on the 22nd, don't forget about Paracon if you're in this area. Also tonight or tomorrow, I've been asked to do 4 or 5 more paranormal shows for Upriver Radio, which are being aired on Irma Bowd's community show, and it's getting a very good, very, very, very good reception of this community because we talk Bigfoot. She's actually already aired my Bigfoot show. I discussed alien abduction briefly. I discussed general paranormal briefly. And so I have to come up with new topics for the local show here now as well. But let's see. Anything else going on, Markham?
Oh, let's see. We're going to have on November 30th, we're going to have a special show. I believe you and I will probably be on it. We're going to have a special show with an anniversary show with Spaced Out Radio.
Okay, right on.
Let's see. Of course, I probably had a mind full of stuff till you asked. As soon as you ask, it all flies away. It's like one of the benefits of getting old. Leaky brain syndrome.
I hear you. So yeah, I'm almost done with English Comp 1. I'm on week 3, and then I get to go into sociology next month. That's going to be a fun class. I like sociology. We got any last questions of the audience? Before I play the music.
Crickets. Crickets.
Crickets?
John went to do his laundry. He said he'll be back.
Okay.
But yeah, that was yeah, I'm looking forward to our Philadelphia experience. I've loved that since. Well, I had a friend in the Navy, and I am going to try and get a hold of him because he would make a really fascinating panel guest. This guy was talking about monopoles and Searle effect and stuff like that back in the 80s. You know, the guy probably had a, you know, I test in the high 120s to 130s depending on the test. This guy was probably 10, 20 IQ points above me, but completely useless for anything but mental. He was a designated coop cleaner in the Navy, which means you are such a screw up that the only thing you can do is be part of, you know, a janitor in your division space. Guy's smart as a whip, though. It's like, what the hell? He started talking about some of this far out physics, and I'm just like, what in the? He actually had friends that were nuke, like electricians mate.
Right.
This damn thing keeps going into mute on its own. But he was actually friends with a lot of the guys that had been through nuke prototype school, the Navy's nuclear program.
Right.
And these guys aren't stupid. And Scott, without any formal education, could sit there and talk nuclear physics with these guys on the same level that they did. It was truly something, just fun to watch. I think he's close to being an idiot savant, you know, but there was a group of us called the Bandana Brothers, and for Veterans Day, I'd love to be able to get all 3 of us back or all 4 of us back together. I forget to count myself in that number, but there was 3 guys I hung out with that we were just pretty much inseparable, and we're still sort of in contact, but not like we were. That would be interesting to see where they all are today.
Right on. All right, and if you're still wanting to listen to Paranormal Radio, James Tyson, Spaced Out Radio starting up here in exactly 10 minutes. www.spacedoutradio.com. Don't miss it. I hear the music. Well, I did hear the music. There we go. Good night, everyone. See you next weekend.
See you next week.